Welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. We are reviewing another one of the AEW's weekly episodes. This time it's Rampage, coming hot off the heels of Dynamite. Rampage, really, they had five matches this week in a 1 hour show, which I felt was, I don't know. I remember saying last week that, of the week they had the Casino Battle Royale, that I felt as if you had like one big match on Rampage and you had to try and do filler. This was five matches in an hour, which was very. Yeah, I feel as if it's 5 minutes. Is five matches too much for an hour? That's kind of an interesting question I had to pose to myself after watching it. Was whether maybe three. When I watch it, so to give you an idea, I watch NWA Power every week, and you've probably seen the review show on the channel. Myself and Fiona review Power, and that normally has three matches on a 1 45 minutes to an hour show. And that's, I feel as if that's a good amount. Or you could probably get away with a push. But if you really wanted really wanted to show that, you know, five to showcase the talent that you have, five matches on a show just maybe a little bit too much. But nevertheless, we're going to get into it. And it started with Wheeler Yuta versus the Butcher. We haven't seen the Butcher in a while on AEW. Well, say the Butcher, he was on a couple of weeks back, but we hadn't, he's not been a regular in AEW for a while now. But nevertheless, it was good to see him. Darby Allin Wheeler Yuta, sorry, coming off the back of losing the Pure Championship to Lee Moriarty recently on Ring of Honor. This was a really good, this was quite a hot, well, actually, it was very hard hitting. You had Butcher, who was a big, hard hitting guy. You had Wheeler Yuta from the Blackpool Combat Club's got that technical ground and pound game, as much as he has a real heavy hitting grapple game as well. And so this really worked well with these. And it was a good opener. Wheeler Yuta wins, funnily enough, with the cattle mutilation, which was Bryan Danielson's old finish back in the day. So really good pay homage a little bit to Danielson there for Wheeler Yuta. Yeah, I really liked it. There was a really hard powerbomb in it by Butcher as well, and the latter part of this match. We did really much enjoy it, this one. Wheeler is another one that I really expect big things from in the future from AW. I think it's really important. We spoke last week about, Daniel Garcia, and perhaps they were apparently ripped Daniel off television just in case he doesn't sign the contract and whatnot. And I feel like it's really important that they keep the likes of Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia. We believe now Daniel Garcia is fully expected to stay at AEW, which I think is absolutely the right move for him. Wheeler's another one that they're going to have to keep and just make sure, that they keep him there or thereabouts. I wouldn't mind seeing Wheeler Yuta this year in the Continental Classic. Should they do it this year? They got to do it this year. Last year was so much fun. But remember last year they had Daniel. It was the making of like a Daniel Garcia, and we saw Brody Lee shine in that as well. And I just think that to have somebody like Wheeler Yuta in there this year, even if it's a bit like Daniel Garcia, he takes the falls a lot, but you showcase him for 20-minute matches, it would really do him the world of good. So I would love to see Wheeler Yuta in the Continental Classic this year. If assuming they're doing that, I think Tony Khan did say they'll be bringing it back this year. So really want to see Wheeler in there. But a fine opening match that didn't have a problem with that at all. Now I did say it had five matches. I mean, Brian Cage, belly to belly, big cutter, Weapon X, beats Manny low. I feel sorry for Manny. I mean, Brian Cage for me is, so he's got Cole Fletcher on Collision this week, which I'm really looking forward to that match. Actually, should be a really good match. I can't wax lyrical enough about Brian Cage on this and about how good he is. And funny enough, the match with Carl Fletcher was set up straight after the match because Carl Fletcher and Don Callis were with Renee, and Callis said we didn't need to get involved in Will Ospreay's business, but then Brian Cage showed up and said he should be talking here to Renee Young, and Carl Fletcher says he wants a warm up before next Wednesday's big match against MJF, and him and cut, and it was basically accepted by Brian Cage, and I can't wait for that match next week. It'd be interesting. But Brian Cage for me, sorry, that match on Collision, sorry, Brian Cage for me is someone who He's just so good, and I don't quite know why him and people like Lance Archer and Will Hobbs never really hit the heights in AEW that they should have. Is that booking? Is that attitude? I don't know, but they are so talented and they are brilliant in the ring. So I really want to see more of those, and hopefully we will see more of those. But real squash job from Brian Cage this week on Rampage, but he does have Carl Fletcher on Collision tomorrow, and I, for one, am looking forward to that match big time tomorrow on Collision. Should be a great show. Women's match next. Harley Cameron, who you don't really see a lot of in the ring, takes on Nyla Rose, who's just really, you know, coming back. She was, remember, if you remember back in the old days of AEW when it first started, Nyla Rose was the woman to beat in it. I remember she'd have beaten her eventually for the title, and Nyla is just, she sort of disappeared for a while and is now coming back on this. It's so good to see Nyla Rose back. But Hardy Cameron in this match got a ton of offense in him, a lot of offense, which is actually really good because you do want to see the talent come through on some of these ones. And, we just had a squash match. I know this was a heavy card, but you needed to give Hardy Cameron a bit of offense, and they definitely done that. But Nyla Rose with the beast bomb gets the victory, and that is the correct winner of the match. But very well put together this because Harley Cameron gets that offense in there that she should do, so you can see what she's all about. But obviously, at the end, Nyla's just too powerful for her, which is exactly what should be happening in this sort of match. And that beast bomb puts her away, and that was pure perfect. How to do that match, pure perfect. Really interesting to see what they do with Nyla. Is the resurgence of Nyla Rose on? Are we going to see Nyla Rose get some championship again, a championship again, maybe? Who knows? She's very talented and maybe doesn't get the credit sometimes that she deserves in there, but nevertheless, a great victory for Nyla Rose and good showing from Harley Cameron in defeat. There is no harm in losing in wrestling as long as you lose in the right way and it makes perfect sense. This absolutely did. So very well done for well put together from AEW on this for sure. I love the next one. Now, Brian, I love Brian. I love Brian Keeper's the bounty hunter. He's now in the learning tree with Chris Jericho and Big Bill. Um, again, see, this is my thing. So you have a five-match card. Two of these are squash matches. So there is an argument there. Now with Brian Cage's one, you can kind of understand because Brian then set up a match between him and Carl Fletcher for Collision. It was Jackson Drake against Brian Keith. And there wasn't a lot. Jackson Drake, I know from the NWA territories, actually. Very good wrestler, actually, Jackson Drake. Hammer throw into the middle by Keith. Tree of Woe, huge running boot, and Diamond Dust. And the match is done on this. Don't know. I do like Brian Keith. I think Brian Keith's got a lot about him. I enjoy the bounty and stuff. I enjoy the fact that he's in with the learning tree of Jericho. I'm just not quite sure if it was needed. If they could have put this match next week on Rampage and had the four matches, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being too picky, but I want to see more of Brian Keith as well, and not just in squash matches. I mean, Brian Cage, I'm supposed to be with Brian's, right? Brian Cage, I'm seeing on Collision. I've got a feeling that match is going to go a bit longer than the match with Manny Lowe did this week on Rampage. But Brian Keith, I want to see because he's extremely talented, really talented. And I just think that there's more to come from him. Just would have liked to see a bit more in this one. But Jackson Drake, I'm pretty sure I'll be looking forward to seeing on the NWA territories very soon. But nevertheless, an easy victory for Brian Keith, an easy paycheck, shall we say, for Brian Keith. But I am interested in what happened after that. And the Undisputed Kingdom are joined by the Beast Mortos, who picked up that huge win for his team this week on Dynamite. And they're going to be taking on FTR, Mark Briscoe, and Darby Allin on the main event of Collision, 8-man tag on Collision. That should be a really good match. Add that to Carl Fletcher and Brian Cage. You got yourself two great matches on Collision already that I'm looking forward to watching and reviewing with you guys. this weekend. So really looking forward to it. That should be good. It takes us to the main event of the show. The M&M, the used to be Maximum Male Models against Private Party in the main event of Collision this week. There was a few awkward spots here in this match, but I do think that AEW have probably seen something in M&M more than maybe what the WWE did. And perhaps it was because they were on the periphery. I think the WWE fans understood it. And I do think they got over, and maybe WWE just didn't really realize it. But AEW have certainly seen perhaps what some of the fans saw in this and are building towards it. The fans did really enjoy this main event. I enjoyed the main event for what it was worth. The paradigm shift by the Maximum Male Models gets the win as well. I like Private Party as well. They had the thing with the Hardys. I just think with Private Party in the net, we need obviously those injuries and stuff like that. We need to see them more regularly. We need to see them doing things. They were on the periphery of tag team gold at one point in AEW, and obviously injuries and whatnot put pay to that. But that and M&M collection, there's something there. They've got something there. They had something there in WWE, to be honest. The only thing, and I'm going to wrap up my final thoughts here, is this, and this is, it was a solid main event, don't get me wrong, but here's the thing. And I don't want to come across as overly negative on, especially on Rampage, because you do only get an hour show. But when the M&M collection and Private Party is the main event, as I said, it's a solid main event. I'm not criticizing the wrestling on this. What I am, I'm not even criticizing, but my observation really, and I like to say the word observation because I'm a fan of AEW. I like AEW. I'm not one of these guys. Um, there is so deep roster with the ratings as they are, and I know people are going to get on to me about ratings, but with the ratings, and you want that casual fan to tune in to Rampage. You've got MJF, you've got Blackpool Combat Club, you've got Death Triangle, Bang Bang Gang, the Elite, the Conglomeration, Will Ospreay, Mercedes Moné, Britt Baker. We know the suspension has been done. I'll talk more of that on Collision. I'll be talking, sorry, more about the Britt Baker suspension on Collision. It's just come out about that. We'll talk about that more later. Tony Storm, Arame, FTR, the Patriarchy, Hangman Page, House of Black, Darby Allin, Undisputed Kingdom, Don Callis family, Diana Praza, Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Soraya, Thunder Rosa. What, do they need to start? The matches didn't mean a lot anyway. In the grand scheme of things, the matches were just throwing together matches for Rampage this week. There wasn't a lot of storyline involvement in it, which was disappointing. There was a storyline after the Bryan Cage match that sets up the match with Carl Fletcher this week. But when you've got a roster that deep, is it not worth, how do I put it? Not doing so is it because you can't really hard split for Rampage. It doesn't work on an hour show. But I just think if you want the casual fan to tune in to Rampage, you need to build even an hour show. You need to have maybe two or three people, maybe two people on there regularly. Bring the storylines to Rampage, but maybe have two or three people on there regulars. Oh yeah, Rampage. I've got to watch Rampage because I don't know, Sammy Guevara's on it, or Darby Allin, or Hangman Page. Yeah, make Rampage about a couple of wrestlers. The same wrestlers like Hangman Page, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara. Make it about two or three wrestlers and get the fans to tune. They have to be popular wrestlers, but get the fans to tune in because I need to watch Rampage because Hangman Adam Page is on it. I'm not saying your world champion Swerve Strickland's and people like that, but look at the roster. Now, I understand that people have to be on the shows as well because you're building talent up. Yeah, Private Party, M&M Collection. I've got no problem with that being the main event. Sorry, no, sorry. I've got no problem with that being on the show. Solid match, no complaints. But should that have been the main event? Could they not have even got away with having not worried about the Brian Cage match, not worried about Brian Keith's match, but Hangman Adam Page squash in there? Or so I don't know, Hangman Adam Page against somebody just for that casual fan to want to tune in to the show. I mean, like I said before, I've got no problem with the competitors, but as I say, the M&M and collection and Private Party. But think about it, with a roster that deep, could they have come up with a better main event? I don't know. Look, maybe I'm being too, maybe I'm looking too much into it. Maybe I'm being too overcritical and I should just concentrate on the wrestling. But it's just my view, guys. I just feel like they could have done more with the roster they've got on Rampage. But you can't really, and on the other hand, that you can't really just say, "Oh, hi, hand man, every week you're on Rampage." And I know they wouldn't want to do that anyway. But just would be better to have, uh, not to take a leaf out of WWE's book, but look, have Dynamite. I think it is time for that hard split or roster. I think have Dynamite and make it about those certain people. Have Collision and make it about certain wrestlers. Have Rampage and have a mixture of the two with the storylines of both shows intertwining. That's what I would do. That's just my opinion, and it's just, hey, who cares what I think, right? I'm just a guy that sits here, watches this shit every week and has an opinion, right? I'm not a Meltzer. I'm not going to give it 5 stars, but I just know what I like, and yeah, that's my view on it. But listen, guys, there's a lot coming up. Collision review coming up. We've got SummerSlam review coming up this week as well. I'm not alone for that, by the way. I'm going to sit down with Mike Mondo this week, the former Nikki from the Spirit Squad. I think it's going to be a two-parter, actually. A lot to talk about with him. Obviously, all the other review shows are dropping, so keep it looked on the channel. HTT Buckle on Twitter, X, Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast, and all over social media networks. Thank you so much for watching us. We're up to in the top 50 of the UK wrestling podcast charts. Again, it's so good to be back there. Thank you all for watching, and keep watching the show. And we'll be back next week for some more. But until then, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, enjoy the weekend, enjoy SummerSlam, enjoy Collision, enjoy every bit of wrestling that's on telly. Good night.